Let's go ahead and cover how property is purchased here in Taiwan. There are 3 ways that this can be done, and we're going to go ahead and cover one of those 3 ways. So, before I begin, quick disclaimer. This is just personal experiences. This is not any sort of recommendation. This is not any sort of advice. This is just me sharing what I understand here in Taiwan for entertainment purposes only. So, please make sure you do your own research. Do not use this for any sort of decisions that you want to make. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump in. So there are 3 ways in which property can mostly be purchased or handled in Taiwan. The first way is through real estate agents. Real estate agents are all over Taiwan, and there are many different types of real estate agents. The main one is known as Shini Realty. It's this green logo. It's impossible to miss. It's literally everywhere throughout Taiwan. But there are other agencies throughout Taiwan that you can work with. They are scattered throughout the whole island, and you will be able to find an agency to work for you depending on where you want to purchase property. Secondly, the second way in which property can be purchased in Taiwan is through construction companies. Not every property in Taiwan has already been built. Some of them are in the process of being built. And these are completely new buildings, new huge high-rise buildings that are in the process of construction. These buildings, you can also purchase properties directly from these construction firms. They do have another step, and it is a little bit confusing. Basically, they do have a small agency they work with, but basically you're buying directly from these companies instead of going through an agent to purchase these properties. The last one is through direct sales. In the US, we see this sometimes. In Taiwan, we see this as well. Basically, people will list their property online and their asking price and see who can bid on that. This type of direct sales will occur in Taiwan, and it makes up a huge chunk of transactions. As much as 40% of transactions in Taiwan for property, or at least around that figure, are done directly without an agent nor by going through the construction company directly. Since there's 3 types, I want to just go ahead and talk about the first one, going through an agency. What are the steps for working with an agency and purchasing a property? The very first step is to get on Google Maps and look for the area that you wish to live in. This is a very straightforward process, but for the most part, you will want to have an idea of where exactly you want to be. You do not go to the real estate agent and ask them, hey, I don't know where I want to live. Can you recommend places for me? It usually doesn't work that way. You need to be able to do the research of which area you want to be in, and then you will go to that branch, that real estate branch, and go and speak to those staff. Once you've decided where you want to go and where you want to purchase property, you will go to that branch directly for whichever real estate agency you want to work with. For me, the easiest one and the largest amount of stores would be with Shini Realty. Shini Realty is all across Taiwan, and you will find a lot of their branches throughout Taiwan. So what you do is you go in and then you let them know. And usually outside they will have signs or in their marketing materials of what type of properties that you can purchase. Once you go and meet with them, they will go ahead and take you to these properties and show you what the properties look like inside. They will show you, hey, each item, each room, and you will go through and see it for yourself. Now, at this point, most people will usually stop. And the reason why is because a lot of the property in Taiwan is very expensive. And many foreigners will want to first explore, but once they realize that the property price is so high, they would rather just decide to rent. And that is mostly what most people do. But if you are determined to purchase a property here and you really want to live in Taiwan long term, then this is the next step. The next step is you will confirm with the real estate agent that you want to purchase this property. And if you want to purchase that property, they will get in contact with the landlord that is selling that property and arrange for certain transactions. Now, this part is extremely confusing, and for the purpose of this video, I don't feel it's necessary to go over every single detail. So I will just summarize it like this. There is a small deposit paid as a consumer, as someone wanting to purchase this property, to hold your name. And there will be some documents, some legal items, some things with the bank. But for the most part, both parties are agreeing to this transaction. Now, the next part is the trickier part, which is getting a loan from the banks. Now, there is obviously another way around, which is if you have enough cash, you can just purchase the property directly. However, this is highly unlikely because the property value for a lot of these places is so high that it's almost impossible for people to have enough cash. Actually, the biggest challenge is to have enough cash just for the down payment. What needs to be done is you need to go to a bank and find a bank that is willing to lend to you. And here's the tricky part. No bank will want to lend to people without any sort of wage history or wage salary. In my experience, banks want to see a certain range of salary of at least more than 1 million Taiwanese dollars in revenue for your salary per year before they consider lending to you. Otherwise, they feel that you are a very high risk individual. So, you will need to work with the banks that you attend or reach out to other banks to see which bank will be willing to give you a mortgage. Not all banks will be easy to work with. Some banks, especially if you have a history with them, will be willing to work with you. Honestly, this could be a whole separate video in itself, but I just want to cover the whole process from A to B. That being said, you go to a bank, you ask for a mortgage. Typically, but not always, they will ask for at least 20% down payment for the property. For some of these properties, a decent, nice home, that 20% down payment can be as much as 120,000 USD, depending on what a loft or slash apartment you're trying to buy. So it can be very expensive, and a lot of money needs to be saved up for this type of transaction. Secondly, you will need to take a look at the type of mortgage rates. This part is where Taiwan really shines because the mortgages are much lower than the ones that you see in other countries like the United States. Right now, as of 2023, the average mortgage is around 2%. Yes, it's that low. 2%. Right now, the US could be having in 2023 6-7% mortgages, but in Taiwan it's as low as 2%. There's a big difference there. So after you go through the bank and you are able to do a 20% deposit or 20% down payment and demonstrate that, because that 20% down payment is going to be very crucial, then, and if the bank agrees to lend this money to you, then you take this information, you go back to the real estate agency, and you're able to show and demonstrate that this landlord will be paid because there is a mortgage that's being applied for, and both parties can initiate a final transaction. Honestly, going through a real estate agency, they will handle a lot of the paperwork because it can be very confusing if you are not a citizen from here. Unfortunately, a lot of these real estate agencies, the English level is not that high. So you either must know some Chinese to be able to work with them, or you might need to have a Taiwanese friend who can really help guide you through this process. That being said, it is a very straightforward process. There is a fee as well to use a real estate agency, but as a consumer or a purchaser, it is usually not that much. It is much more on the seller side, and they will pay the majority of the transaction costs. However, there's still a cost, and you must be prepared to pay for that, along with taxes and other fees that the bank will charge. If you want to purchase a property in Taiwan or Taipei, just remember it can be a very quick transaction or it could be a very lengthy transaction as well, as properties can be purchased very, very quickly. That being said, I hope I was able to give you a very general insight. I agree it is not incredibly detailed, but those are the basics for how that process is done when going through a real estate agency. Anyhow, until next one, see you guys.